So I think built different is more of a when other people are finding every reason not to train or every reason not to comply or every reason of not to do something, you're built a little different that even though you don't want to do something, you say, fuck your mood and I'm going to execute the plan anyway. I always start with calves and hamstrings to warm up. I'll go to my quads and we'll go from there. We'll just have fun with it. My purpose is to be of service to other people, man. As far as the gym is concerned, I had to pay through sweat equity, through finances, through everything to get the information and the advices and the help that I wanted. And if I can be of service to other people to not, smash their head against the wall for 15 years like I have to get to where they want to be, I would love to do that for other people. Like fitness for me was like a huge thing because I was told all my entire life that we would never be fit. And that's part of the reason why I got started was I was working at a Red Robin because it was the only job I could walk to. I was living at a friend's house, Dan Garcia. I had this manager and I wanted to go watch a bodybuilding show, and he misinterpreted what I was saying, that I was gonna go to a bodybuilding show, and he stopped and he looked at me and he said, man, you're just gonna be a husky kid. It's just the way it is. You're just always going to be a husky kid. The first thought in the back of my brain was, fuck you. And I lost 50 pounds in 12 weeks and I did my first show. But that was enough because the people closest to you are the ones who are going to deny you, or the people that are going to doubt you because they've seen you and they're, oh yeah, he's not going to change or blah, blah, blah. When I did my first show, it inspired my family, like, oh, we can lose weight. Oh, we can change our habits. We can do this. We can do that. And my first client was my mother, and I got her to lose 100 pounds in 8 months, in the midst of a divorce. And like that to me was like the biggest thing for me. And I realized that that's what I wanted to do, was to help people. The gym was somewhere where I got support where I never had support in my home life. I had people really take me under their wing that I never thought would take me under their wing. And the way I got into the gym was I didn't get into the football team. I wanted to be like one of the cool kids, and I tried out for the football team my freshman year of high school, and I got cut the very last day of preseason. And I remember it broke my heart. And I got into the gym, and my dad's friends, actually, they were New York State troopers. They took me under their wing and they taught me how to lift. And I was naturally decently strong. And I grew to love that. I grew to love training and the camaraderie and getting along with everybody, but you were in essence still doing your own thing. And I really, really fell in love with how supportive everybody was. Self-progression, not only in yourself, but having that community that supports you as well. And that's, if I had to pinpoint what my purpose is, it's to be of service to other people, whether it's in a medical field, whether it's in a training sphere, whether it's nutrition, and, however which way I can be of service to my community is where I really want to thrive. I don't think if you enjoy something, it takes any kind of discipline to do it. When I'm going through stuff, like if I'm having like a hard month or period or time, I will bury myself in the gym because that's an escape. When you have to be present and compassionate and empathetic and actually deal with the important things is where you need more grit. It's doing the things you don't want to do. Gym equipment is going to be my number one thing, especially when when you've been training. I think the number one thing about training is it has to feel good. And so many people do movements that just hurt just because. And inevitably you get to a point in training to where if the movement doesn't feel good, I'm not going to do it in any way, shape, or form. So the way to stimulate a muscle is through a movement that you can progressively overload on, through a movement that you can actually push effort and intensity on. So inevitably, if that movement isn't going to feel good on your hips, your elbows, your shoulders, your knees, there's no way that you're going to really push the effort on that. So especially when you are trying to develop the best physiques possible, my number one rule is if it doesn't feel good, I'm not going to do it. So just like this movement, when I'm priming, when I'm warming up, I'm taking note of does this movement feel good? And if it doesn't feel good, I'm not going to do it. So there's been a plethora of times where I picked a movement And we've all been there where we're doing a movement and man, my elbow hurts or my knees hurt or this hurts. And I just say, no, I'm not doing that one today. And then I just move on. And you pick something that you know is tried and true, that just, it's smooth, it feels good, and you know it's gonna be reliable to create that stimulus for you. How many times have you watched somebody do something that they shouldn't be doing? And they're like, oh yeah, it hurts my shoulder. And I'm like, why? Then why do it? One thing you see now is a lot of gym equipment's made by engineers who have never touched a weight in their life. And that's why a lot of people are searching for the old school hammer strength, the old school like carry and stuff, is because it was made by people who lift. And it was made in a way to where it was hard and you didn't need a ton of weight to load up on it, right? Like they had the old school Cybex hack squat on there. Good luck hack squatting with fucking 3 plates aside on that bad boy. And it's just like, if you can get the same stimulus for less weight on the bar, inevitably it's going to be a more effective weight and you're not going to have that same risk of injury that you would normally have. And that's the game. The game is a marathon. The game is how long can you keep a stimulus up for a long period of time without fucking yourself up. And that's the end all be all, is like we all want to train into our 50s and 60s. And you know, as much as we want to move heavy weight, sometimes the answer is being more effective. I remember Dylan back in COVID when all the gyms were shut down and big techs, and watching him start and buy up gym equipment and resell it. And I remember because I was training during that period of time because all the restaurants were shut down. I remember watching him sell stuff. I remember watching him buy stuff. I remember watching him network and thinking like, that's such a fucking great idea. And he just grew and grew and grew and grew. And I think he was like one of the only people that like had the tenacity, and you almost have to have like a stubbornness of like, I'm going to be successful in this to create the life that he wanted. And I remember like watching his rise and thinking like, that's so fucking cool that he was able to capitalize on the need, which was this exercise equipment during COVID, and then build something off of that to where it takes care of him and his family now at this point. And now that he's building his own equipment, I am in full support because I saw him just put in the blood, sweat, and tears over the last half a decade to do so. So yeah, Dylan was like, I remember watching him back in the Dizzy. I think it's perfect because equipment should be made by people who use equipment. And the fact that he's a lifter, the fact that he's been in the game for several years, probably over a decade, and now making equipment, he's going to be a better gauge on how good that equipment is versus the guy who's an engineer and has never had a hard day lifting in his life. And that's like the thing is like, you know, to bring it over to back to hospitality is like, people start restaurants who have never owned restaurants or never been a chef before. And you see them crumble and fall because it's more of a spreadsheet thing to them than the actual experience itself. To where, especially in the equipment sphere, it's so much about the experience itself. It's like, does this movement feel good? Is this movement going to be effective for your average guy, your average lifter? How does this feel? Versus, are the swing arms and the metrics and the measurements correct? Yes, those things have to be in order, but the movement itself has to be prevy, has to be relevant to the everyday lifter. And I think that's why the hammer strength and the Icarian and the Cybex were so good back in the day. Because again, they were made by people who, like Dylan, had years in the game and knew what felt good. And so I think he's the perfect person to be building equipment. I train purely out of the love of it. And I have no aspirations to be anything like like a Mr. Olympia or even a pro or anything. But I'm incredibly stubborn and I love this. And I think that's where it shines, is you can become relatable to people because you're no one outside the norm. You just use the tools that you have to the best of your ability. I think the key thing to this machine, to any squat, is to milk the negative. I see so many people come to me and they're like, my fucking knees hurt. And I'm like, let me see your squat. And they dive bomb it. And like, if you lighten the load a little bit and do a 2 to 3 second negative, game changer. Go slow. Make it burn. Make it hurt. Make it worthwhile. Like, if you can use less weight for more stimulus, you win. Because it's less strain on your joints over time, right? The longer you can be in here without pain, you're winning. So that's inevitably where the no pain, no gain comes from. There's pain in dieting, being hungry. There's pain in training, the burn, the stimulus, the sore. But when something hurts your elbows, your knees, your hips, your lower back, you have to be able to be self-aware enough to understand what exercises are working for you and what exercises are just not worth doing. Oh, that was beautiful. But that whole movement felt good. Yeah. That's the reason. I felt no pressure on my knees, no pressure on my hips. I had the controlled negative the entire time, a really good stretch through the quads. It felt good. The machine is called the humbler for a reason, in that it makes that triple extension, that squat, incredibly hard by putting you at a mechanical disadvantage. However, for taller guys like myself, having your back braced is one of the most important things. Because if I go to do a squat, my back and my glutes take all over everything. But I don't want back and glutes for everything. I want to build big legs. So having that back supported on the pendulum squat is outrageously important, because then I can just focus on the contraction, the stretch, and the emphasis on the quads. So by having a supported movement like this, like the pendulum squat, like the humbler, I can use a minimal amount of weight, right? This isn't anything crazy, with the maximum amount of stretch, the maximum amount of contraction, with the least amount of risk to my overall well-being. Lovely. So to be completely transparent, to be completely selfish, my overall dream, my overall goal is to be able to support me and my wife through my business, through helping people, through actually improving people's quality of life without my wife having to put on the vest anymore. My entire goal is to make enough money that my wife doesn't have to put herself at risk on the streets anymore. And that's through law enforcement. And so, with that being said, my overall goal, my overall objective is to have enough people to change enough lives that I can create and sustain a life for myself. And my goal has always been to make 6 figures from my laptop, helping and being of service to people when I needed it most, in the areas that I never had help in, and fulfilling those spaces, fulfilling those questions, fulfilling those needs that I had going through my own fitness journey that I never had, that I wish somebody had been able to communicate with me. So I've had enough helping hands in my life that I want to pay it forward, and I want to help people grow and become the best versions of themselves while still being able to support my wife, my family, and our future endeavors. You can find me on Vince_Maier at Instagram, Vicious Fitness YouTube, I'm on the TikToks, I'm on the Facebook, and I need to build a website. And if you're interested in in-person and online training, I also do all the nutrition consulting here at Raise the Bar, as well as in-person training. If I cannot sweat every single month, get a good night's sleep, put food on my table, but also be of service to other people, then I'm okay.